I'm an Omega, cast out by my wealthy family and handed over to a man who had lost the use of his legs, told to keep him entertained. But I was even gloomier than he was. I spent my days listless, uninterested in anything, and didn't even realize I was pregnant. When I heard he was about to marry someone else, I packed my things and left. That very night, the alpha pinned me down on the bed and murmured, "Be good, sweetheart, hold your belly yourself." 1. I was exhausted. In the stillness of the night, I lay sprawled across his broad chest, gasping for breath. Sweat rolled hot down from my temple, and I could feel the rise and fall of our chests pressed together. His large hand cupped my waist and back. "What's wrong?" he asked. I furrowed my brows lightly, turned over, and lay on my side. He shifted toward me, tugged the thin blanket over my body, and brushed his fingers across my face. "You don't like it?" I shook my head slightly, still a little breathless. "I do. I just feel worn out." I didn't want to move, didn't want to think. In that moment, I didn't care how disheveled I looked, nor how undignified Hudson might seem, stuck between strength and weakness. Still, I tugged the blanket and covered him with one corner. "Don't catch a chill." Hudson's gaze flicked toward the place I had covered. The vein at his temple pulsed a few times. "Forget it," he thought. "He's still so young." Before the accident, Hudson had been untouchable, an arrogant star, aloof and restrained, like a flower high up on a mountain peak. After the crash, he became a brooding figure, moody, ruthless, never showing mercy. And me, I was the useless son my family couldn't stand, sent to him as a toy, a way to smooth relations by amusing him. There had always been plenty of people trying to win Hudson over, but I was the only one who managed to get close and stay by his side. Because when you're used to being a failure, even doing one thing right feels good. I caught myself smiling from the heart, for 3 whole seconds. At first, his attitude toward me was cold, his face a mask that warned strangers to keep their distance. I knew better than to hover around him. Sometimes, I didn't even leave the bedroom, even skipped meals. One day, a bodyguard wheeled him into my room. I was lying on the bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. Hearing the sound, I turned my head. Our eyes met. I calmly sat up. "What is it? Are you asking me to leave?" I wasn't much use here. Even if I stayed, I couldn't make him happy. Hudson frowned. "Go eat. Don't make me come here to call you again." I froze for a moment. "Oh, I thought you were kicking me out." He ignored that, simply lifted his hand. "Come push me out." I got up, walked over, and took the wheelchair handles from the bodyguard. "Will your legs ever get better?" I asked. The bodyguard stiffened. That was forbidden territory. But Hudson only said, "I don't know." I let out a quiet "oh," and didn't ask again. After dinner, I pushed him into the study to deal with his work. I sat on the couch, spacing out. Before long, Hudson looked up to find me stretched out on the black leather sofa, half dozing. He stared for a long while, until I noticed his gaze and looked back at him. Remembering his inconvenience, I said, "Just call me if you need anything." He held my eyes a moment longer before answering, His voice was low, rich, pleasant. Not long after, he asked me to push him into the bathroom to bathe him. I wasn't strong, and nearly couldn't move him. By the time I managed to settle him into the tub, I was drenched in sweat. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of something that made my face remain calm, though my heart leapt. It was alarmingly big. I sat on the edge, catching my breath. The thought of having to scrub him, dress him, lift him back into the wheelchair, and wheel him into the bedroom made me feel drained. I didn't want to move. So when Hudson told me to lie down with him, I didn't hesitate. I climbed right in. He hadn't expected me to be that straightforward. For a moment, his expression faltered. Then his eyes darkened, and he pulled me into his arms. Back in the bedroom, I wore his sleep shirt, lying on the bed with my head resting near the edge. Hudson sat beside me, towel drying my hair. "You must be about 6'2", huh? Your legs are so long," I remarked. Even with some muscle atrophy in his calves, they were still striking. Hudson didn't reply. He finished with my hair and asked me to help him onto the bed. I swung my bare legs onto the floor, bracing him as he climbed onto the mattress. When he lay down, he patted the spot beside him. I knelt on the bed, preparing to climb over his waist, but before I could move, his hand clamped firmly around my waist. "Two." I caught on to what he meant and said earnestly, "I already helped you just now." Honestly, if he wanted me to help again, I wouldn't refuse. After all, I had been given to him. But Hudson suddenly released me, then rolled over and pinned me down as I lay back. He was far bigger than I was, his overwhelming strength leaving me unable to move. His scent surrounded me, dense and suffocating, like he wanted to consume me whole. I blinked my damp eyes, and under his coaxing fingers, let him undo the buttons of my sleep shirt, feeling a little pitiful. After that, I hardly left his side. Even at mealtimes, he would hold me in his arms and feed me himself, bite after bite, until my belly was round and full. Only when I couldn't take another mouthful did he stop, pushing the dishes aside. My bare feet rested on his slippers where his own feet pressed the wheelchair pedals. A lace-suppressant collar hung loosely around my neck, half undone, exposing the glands on my skin, marked with fresh bites. Soon, my appetite grew. Hudson pinched my chin and turned my face toward him. "Why do you eat so much, yet never gain weight, HM?" My cheeks flushed, my expression dazed. I gave a vague hum, too lazy to answer. Hudson brushed his thumb over my cheek. "My baby is so obedient." Even when I was sulking, I still had to respond to him. Hudson was a complete maniac. That was the conclusion I eventually reached. I wanted to complain to someone about it, but I had no one. Childhood friends? We'd fallen out not long ago. Roommates? Scattered in different places now. Family? They'd scold me for being ungrateful, accuse me of insulting Hudson. So in the end, I vented by posting on my social feed. "Hudson is so annoying." I didn't block anyone. Every friend could see it. I didn't have many contacts, mostly rich second-generation kids. Of course they all knew Hudson. The comments exploded within minutes. Some gloated, some messaged me privately asking if I needed help. They assumed I'd gotten into trouble, angered Hudson, and was now venting publicly. Only my teenage niece, clueless, simply hit like. Then my parents and relatives all rushed in. They scolded me in the comments for being childish, then messaged me frantically, ordering me to delete it. They called me over and over, like ants on a hot pan. My urge to share fizzled out instantly. I was just about to delete the post, but then Hudson himself gave it a like. My parents, who had been refreshing my page non-stop, froze when they saw it. Then panic set in. They even called Hudson to apologize. What they said, I never knew, nor cared. At least, they stopped bothering me after that. It had just been a whim, anyway. I deleted the post a few minutes later. Hudson wheeled himself over. "Why'd you delete it?" I turned my back to him. "No reason. I was only wearing a white tank top, my pale skin covered in obvious marks." Hudson noticed my reluctance to engage, but didn't get upset. The housekeeper had made ice cream for the summer heat. I didn't touch it. Hudson coaxed, "I'll have them bring it up." I gave a faint hum in reply. That night, I lay across his lap, arms trembling as I held myself up against the bed. Hudson's hand gripped my waist, his expression cold and commanding. "Baby, stop fighting me. Only I can make you feel good." His voice dropped into a chilling growl. "See? I told you he was a maniac." Sometimes, he scared me with how ruthless he became. But his lessons, extreme as they were, left me addicted. Addicted to his presence, even to his scent. 3. But the real reason was, I didn't want to fight back. Or maybe, refuse, is a better word. I did protest sometimes, but only when I truly couldn't take it anymore. Then he would soften, giving gentle orders, guiding me with a steady hand stroking down my spine. His scent would shift too, like a summer breeze, cool and soothing. Not oppressive, but subtle, calming, yet still in control. Only when I let my guard down would he transform again into that cold, unyielding figure. Then the alpha's aggressive pheromones would surge, trying to claim me as his own. I was never the strong-willed type of Omega. When upset, I usually just buried myself in bed and slept the world away. And since he could still make me feel good, his overwhelming dominance didn't make me uncomfortable. My shame crumbled under his calm authority. Even my tears came laced with shivers I couldn't explain. When I collapsed, Hudson scooped me into his arms, setting aside his harshness. "Baby, relax." My face burned red, his handsome features slowly coming back into focus. My voice was soft but clear, "I am relaxed." Hudson suddenly laughed. He took my hand and pressed it against him. "Don't overthink. It's just us. Do you like it?" I licked my lips, whispered a yes, and leaned into his shoulder, hiding my face. His pheromones worked both ways, they tempted him too. Dark desires lingered in the quiet of the night, soothed only by our voices filling the room. Hudson loved to ask, "Is this okay? Should I go further? Do you like it? Do you not?" I wasn't someone easily riled. Sometimes I was even dull, fully aware I was only here to amuse him. So when he asked, I answered truthfully, "Yeah, it's fine, it's okay, I like it." But if I was uncomfortable, I'd say that too. Like now, I was just too tired. Not sleepy exactly, just unwilling to move anymore. Hudson didn't get angry. He grabbed a handkerchief and wiped me down. "Tired? Then rest a while." I yawned, shut my eyes, and drifted off quickly. Hudson pushed the soiled sheets aside, gathered me into his arms, and pulled a thin blanket over us. 4. When I hole up at home I don't even leave the bedroom, My neck is bare so I don't bother with the suppressant patch. Hudson can smell my Omega pheromones the moment he walks in, soft peachy notes, delicate and pleasant. Unlike his sharp liquor scent, mine is gentle and harmless. He hadn't been in the study long before he wheeled himself back to the bedroom. Logically he's the one who's badly injured and should be being cared for, but now he's the one worrying I'll sulk myself into trouble. He never says it out loud, but in his gloomy way he thinks how obedient I am. He loves it. They're all useless at running a family, so of course they'd send over a dainty, pretty Omega like me. And he even kept me. I sat cross-legged on the sofa, chatting with the friend I'd fallen out with. Of course I knew Hudson had come in. He hadn't said anything, so I ignored him. After a while I glanced up. Something wrong? My face was cool, my tone flat. Really, I was just worried he might need something, since his legs were unreliable. His wheelchair is custom-built, solid and at the right height. He's tall, so when he pulls up close he towers over the sofa and it feels intimidating. Who are you talking to? I leaned back, propped my foot on his thigh. My old friend. He wants to make up. Hudson's Adam's apple ticked. He toyed with the ring on his thumb. Make up? We argued. Why? I put my phone down. When my parents sent me here, he thought I'd fallen from grace. Hudson's brow tightened, then he asked, does that upset you? I thought about it and suddenly didn't want to answer a pointless question. I tilted my head and watched him, and I saw. His hand closed around my ankle, his thumb rubbed at my bone. What did he see? My hair had grown long. When I turned slightly, my bangs fluttered over my eyes. I simply didn't look lively, no spark, yet there was no gloom to me, unlike this man in front of me whose bones seemed to hold menace. What about those things you had custom-made? I asked. Hudson's expression went dark in an instant. All the clothes I wore were his. I'd never unpacked my luggage and didn't know where the housekeeper had tucked it away. I hate unnecessary chores, and I figured Hudson had reasons for not handing my bags over, so I didn't pry. Everything on me was alpha-sized, too big, neckline open, bruises below my collarbone still visible. I curled my lips with a hint of pride. Make me happy and I'll model them for you. Hudson, how would I know if the alpha was in a good mood? I said it on a whim. He didn't answer, his eyes dark as oil, staring at me. I tried to pull my foot back, but he gripped it hard. I pursed my lips. Then Hudson smiled once, quietly. Come here, let me hold you. I looked at him and nodded slowly. As soon as he loosened his grip, I snatched my foot back, rolled off the sofa, and ran out the other side. Hudson's gaze went dangerously narrow. He almost used his pheromones to force me back, but he stopped himself. His face grew serious, though his voice softened more than usual. Lincoln, put on shoes. I was barefoot and wearing his baggy shorts, shorter, less broad than him, the pants hanging loose. Passing within an arm's length of him, I shrugged casually, I won't. Hudson's brow furrowed, some ungraspable helplessness hit him. His eyes finally flared. He grabbed the wheelchair's armrests and strained, but his lower legs were weak. He couldn't stand. Lincoln. Hudson stayed where he was. I turned and met his stare. The alpha, impossibly handsome, was shrouded in a kind of gloom that made him look fierce, but I wasn't afraid. Yes, I'd been sent to please him. Truthfully, I was meant to be his plaything. But pleasing him and being forced were different things. If I didn't want to do something, I wouldn't. Those are not the same. Him being displeased is his problem, not mine. Are you mad? Hudson's lashes drooped slightly, but the edge in his eyes remained. I didn't think. No, I said. 5. That evening he found me on the bay window in the spare bedroom. I'd made the window nook my own. I lay curled there, tracing patterns on the glass with my finger. The wheelchair rolled across the floor. I didn't turn. I wasn't angry. Who has time for pettiness? But sometimes I fall into a sudden loneliness, wanting to brood over problems that don't actually need solving. This had nothing to do with Hudson. When my mood sinks far enough, I can't force myself to be cheerful, and that doesn't mean I'm not content. I even enjoy the quiet. Hudson came closer. Why don't you go back to the bedroom and sleep? He paused, then asked, which room will you sleep in tonight? I answered lazily, it's still early. If you're tired, go ahead. I'll stay up. Hudson tapped his hand on the armrest. Do you mind me being here? I turned to him and laughed softly. You disturb me, sir. His eyes flickered and he asked gently, why? My pillow was propped up high. I flipped over and rested my face on it, looking at him with bright eyes. I wasn't going to explain everything. Hudson has an innate authority that never fades, but his patience is surprisingly long. He hummed a drawn-out accepting that I wouldn't answer. Logically, he should be the one depressed because of his disability, yet the alpha grew more severe and fierce, making people fear him. He looked fearsome, but I wasn't that scared. his pressure on me felt different from how he was to others. I stared at his impeccably handsome face and, on impulse, teased, "I heard you never give in to desire, always restrained. Is that true?" Hudson studied me, his gaze raw and predatory, as if to say, "What do you think?" I scoffed lightly. "Restraint? What a lie, he's a huge pervert." I climbed down and sat on his lap, my knees bent over the armrest. He wrapped his hands around my waist. He grabbed my chin and kissed me. I tilted my head back and almost let him do as he pleased. Hudson thought the Omega in his arms was so small and the voice so lovely. I grabbed his forearm and pushed his hand away. "Enough." His sharp nose pressed under my jaw. "Good." I buried myself into his chest, trembling slightly, on the verge of tears. These uncontrollable swings of emotion were like the weather, sometimes stormy, sometimes clear. Not necessarily sadness, just a kind of weary, gnawing unrest, a little hurt. If Hudson asked what was wrong, I honestly couldn't point to anything. He didn't ask. He brushed wet hair from my cheek. "I'm glad, Lincoln." I stared at him with wet eyes. "What, do you want me to dress like that for you?" "Hudson." He swore he hadn't meant it like that, but men follow their instincts. His eyes darkened. "I want to see." I actually pampered Hudson quite a bit, so long as it never crossed the line into something I couldn't bear. I would comply with his requests and try my best to endure. 6. Hudson had started rehab, though the news was kept under wraps for now. The attending physician leading his recovery team was genuinely surprised. Previously, Hudson had refused to cooperate with rehab, leaving outsiders to assume his legs would never support him again. Of course, the situation had been more complicated. He had his reasons for refusing treatment. 2 years of conservative rest had kept him from worsening, even if he couldn't stand. Now, things were improving. The medical team was among the best, both domestically and internationally. Knowing he could still stand, Hudson himself exhaled a quiet relief. He realized sometimes he simply couldn't catch the Omega, who moved too quickly. This made an alpha, who'd never been discouraged by his legs, feel impatient. Yes, impatient. Rehab wasn't easy. I sometimes saw him sweating from the pain. Secretly watching him train had become my daily routine. Hudson didn't allow me to accompany him. I could understand that, yet not entirely. If he had been forceful in keeping me out, I wouldn't even have had the chance to approach the rehab room. Over the years, Hudson had stayed mostly secluded. Rumors about him were widespread, but his iron-handed methods kept unruly people in check. At a time of near decline, he even put his uncle in prison to secure his position as family head. His temperament had grown unpredictable, his methods ruthless, more feared than before the accident. Otherwise, why would those old elites send their children to curry favor with him? But now, soaked and collapsed to the floor, his handsome face clouded with frustration, he looked a little defeated. I stepped lightly toward him. His eyes lifted, locking on me like a predator zeroing in on its prey. The aggressive pheromones stung my glands sharply. By the time I reached him, my face was flushed. He was in full anger, his pheromones different from those during intimacy. Yet I'd silently soothed him with my own scent as I came in, so his pheromones carried no attack toward me, just faint, twisting tendrils. I crouched to face him. "Does it hurt? Let's continue tomorrow." Cold sweat ran down his temples, his chiseled features remained sharp and severe. Even like this, he looked fierce. Not at all awkward. Why wouldn't he let me watch? I sat down as well, hands on his thighs, leaning close. "Take it slow, okay? I don't mind that you use those things on me." The words seemed unrelated, yet somehow connected. Hudson's long lashes fluttered. He lifted his eyes, sharp but uniquely soft and lingering. 7. He didn't dominate my approach. Instead, he responded slowly and gently. He reached for the robe nearby and draped it over me, pulling me into his embrace. "I like that you wear nothing." For the first time, Hudson openly expressed his raw desire, eyes sparkling as he looked only at me. I simply smiled. He wasn't excessive, just letting his hand slide into my clothes, feeling the closeness. The robe still covered me fully, though. After a while, I rested on his shoulder, drowsy. I helped him up, clutching his waist, stumbling a bit as we moved. Hudson held onto the parallel bars with one hand, the other around my waist. "If you're tired, rest for a bit." There was a bed in the rehab room. I nodded, half-dazed. "Call me if you fall." Hudson paused, almost indulgently. That nap was blissful. When I woke, Hudson had me in his lap, wheeling straight from the elevator to our room. While he worked, I nestled in his arms, feet resting on his footrest, biting my lip. When Hudson worked, his ruthless, unyielding side emerged. Domineering, controlling, the alpha's authority was unmistakable. I had to admit, it was thrilling to watch. I felt a little wild. Of course, The craziest thing I'd done so far was being Hudson's secret lover. I didn't resent my family for sending me here. If I truly didn't want this, I wouldn't have caused chaos for the whole household. I don't race, I don't misbehave, my desires are minimal. Except for failing to meet their expectations, my parents should be satisfied. Yet sometimes, when I feel low, I hate being noticed, wanting to hide somewhere for a while. Even I can't force myself to be cheerful, and I don't know how to make Hudson smile. Now, is he happy? I've seen him confident and commanding, the alpha several years older than me, mature, composed, warm, and elegant. 8. Once Hudson decided on something, he was incredibly efficient. In just a month or two, he was able to move around with crutches, and his calf muscles were gradually regaining strength. News of his leg recovery couldn't stay hidden for long. To prevent the situation from escalating and causing ripples across the company, much of the information was suppressed. I followed him during rehab for a while but lost interest quickly. The alpha, who had initially forbidden me to accompany him, wasn't pleased and ended up redecorating the rehab room. Fresh bouquets, cute plush toys, sleek mecha models, even the bed was changed to my preferred style. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, a sea of beautiful roses had been laid out. Yet I rarely went there. I preferred visiting the annex to watch the bodyguards train. They were all tall, muscular alphas, throwing punches that landed solidly during sparring, really impressive. Initially, they were cautious, not wanting to overstep with me, but an Omega on the team kept an eye on me. Later, they worried the strong alpha pheromones on me would overwhelm them. Before every training session, they'd shower and spray suppressants to cope. My high-level alpha scent was strong, even for them, it made them uncomfortable. But they couldn't complain, only sweat through it. After watching for a few days, I got impatient. I took off my jacket, ready to try a few moves. Suddenly, the alpha supporting himself on crutches called out, "Lincoln." I froze and looked back. The bodyguards, seeing him approach, panicked and quickly greeted him before stepping aside. I was down to a tank top, my bare arms glaringly pale. Hudson's expression was dark. He approached, holding his crutches, and draped my jacket over me. "Want to learn?" I answered, Hudson didn't negotiate. "Once I'm fully recovered, I'll teach you personally." I stared at him expressionlessly for a moment, then nodded. Fine. It had been an impulse anyway. After the excitement faded, learning or not didn't matter much. "How did you get here?" Rehab was time-consuming. Others were eyeing him constantly, and company affairs kept him busy. His tone was flat. "Came to pick you up." "Pick me up?" I thought a moment, then nodded again. "Fine." The main building and annex were a short distance apart, so we rode in the car. During the ride, Hudson's tone was ambiguous. "What's so interesting?" I answered honestly, "They're all tall, long-legged, and quite skilled." The pressure in the car was rising. Hudson's personal bodyguard was driving, and he tensed, wishing he could disappear. Hudson's entire body radiated a chilling aura, his expression dark and foreboding. I grinned slightly. "I just wanted to learn a bit of leg work. Is that such a crime?" My sly tone softened him. Hudson, who always found me cute, kissed the back of my hand and reflected, I was being petty. Once we reached the room, his overwhelming pheromones made my legs weak. He held me by the waist with one arm. "Lean on me, baby." I wrapped my arms around his waist, putting an effort to support him onto the sofa. Once seated, he pulled me down with him. One hand pressed against my waist, he opened the nearby fridge and took something out. "So long as I'm fully recovered, I'll teach you whatever you want, Lincoln." I thought vaguely that I should be calling him older brother. 9. In the late afternoon, the sun setting, I crossed my legs on the sofa, arms folded, my expression still a little cold. A doctor checked Hudson's calves and smiled. "They're recovering well. In a month, he may walk without crutches." Hudson pressed his brows and glared at the doctor, exuding pressure. "When can I hold my Omega for an hour or two while standing?" The doctor glanced cautiously at me, face gradually reddening. That may take about 6 months. Avoid overexertion, it could hinder full recovery." 6 months was a conservative estimate, it depended on the alpha's subsequent progress. Hudson paused for 2 seconds, then said, "Right. Schedule a check for Lincoln. He's been sleepy lately and not eating as much as usual." I frowned. I had extra meals. I ate plenty and am still getting hungry fast. The doctor's heart skipped, but he maintained composure. "Could be the heat. Little Master's complexion looks healthy. No need to worry." Hudson met the doctor's gaze, then nodded in agreement. "Fine." I didn't know it, but when Hudson returned to the study, he met the doctor again privately. In the following period, he seemed calmer, more detached. The doctor still scheduled checks. I resisted strongly, locking myself in the secondary bedroom where I had first stayed. Even without the check, I already sensed what was happening. I lay on the bay window again, tugging down my shirt to cover my exposed lower stomach. 10. Before being sent here, I had only met Hudson twice. The first time was at a party. I wasn't fond of such grand occasions. Forced smiles and socializing always left me feeling drained. But my parents brought me along, treating me like some sort of asset in the social scene, hoping I could make connections in a higher circle. Not long after arriving, I quietly slipped away, hiding on what seemed to be an empty balcony. Just as I stepped out, I almost bumped into an alpha. Startled, I opened my mouth to speak, but he covered it with his hand. At the same time, strange sounds came from another balcony nearby. I was too naive to understand what was happening. The sounds were so unusual, so intense that I felt my face heat up, and I stared at the impossibly handsome alpha, slowly blushing. When my mouth was freed, I didn't speak. The next second, his large hand covered my ear. It wasn't until later that I realized what I had witnessed. I had just been listening to someone else's private affair, with that striking, elegant young man standing there. That night is a blur. I only remember my parents telling me that his name was Hudson. Hudson, and he looked that good. The second meeting was 2 or 3 months later. My childhood friend brought me to a high-end club. That night, after a bit of drinking, I started heating up, my neck swelling. When my friend tried to push me onto the sofa, I panicked, shoved him away, and stumbled out. The out-of-control alpha tackled me. I screamed in terror. I split, my omega side emerging. My initial pheromones caused chaos around me, alarms blared, air vents activated, and suppressant devices kicked in automatically. I bit my lip and struggled, tears streaming down my face. The alpha's strength was overwhelming. My friend's eyes were bloodshot as he rasped, "Lincoln, Lincoln." At that moment, Hudson, who had been nearby, stepped in. He restrained me, dragging me to isolation. He helped me upright, gently wrapping a scarf around my neck. The scarf carried a faint scent of alcohol but also covered half my face. A wide cashmere coat fully enveloped me, and I was lifted into his arms. Suddenly, my view soared. Hudson, holding me, was incredibly tall. I recognized him. I had met him just a short while before. I trembled, nestled in his embrace. His pheromones were gentle, nothing like the fierce, suppressive force my friend exuded. "Don't be afraid. I'll take you to the hospital," he said softly. It was comforting. I secretly let a few tears slip, burying my head against his shoulder and whispering, "Thank you." Hudson stiffened slightly, a faint blush creeping across his face. Omega pheromones were so intoxicating, and the boy had spoken so close to his glands, yet Hudson, older and more mature, restrained himself gracefully. All I could feel was the safety of his embrace. It was a cold winter day with heavy snow. His bodyguard held an umbrella high above us. My shoes crunched in the snow, streetlights casting flickering pale glows. I clutched his coat, nose tingling from the cold, yet I felt a new, naive excitement, like a sprouting seed in early spring, quietly pushing through the soil, ready to grow. When I woke up at the hospital and returned home, I thought about how I could personally thank the air. But soon after, he was in a car accident, and I never had contact with him again. Time has a way of fading memories, erasing traces of the past. Until, when the family business suffered consecutive losses, they sent me here. 11. But now, I didn't know how to face Hudson. I felt a little annoyed. Aunt brought the keys, and the door was opened again. Hudson didn't walk straight in. He leaned on his cane at the doorway. "Can I come in?" I didn't answer immediately. He stood there for what felt like forever before I finally glanced at the tall figure not far away and softly said, "Come in and sit." Hudson finally stepped inside and sat behind me. "Baby, I'm sorry." He reflected on himself. I was young, playful, it was normal, but he was several years older, and his consideration had been insufficient. I rolled onto my back, staring at him. "It's okay, it's not just your fault. It was an accident." It had been months, and we hadn't even reached a permanent marking. Who knew? Never mind, it was all accidental. His hand rested on my stomach. "It's my fault." Hudson admitted he wasn't as gentle and pure as I had thought. He could be dark, even cruel. But the moment he learned I had a little one, he felt immense joy. Then came worry. He feared I wouldn't be happy. "I want you to be happy." His hands cupped my face, his head tilting slightly. "Baby, it's okay if you're mad at me." I rubbed my face against his hand and smiled. I didn't want to be angry. Then I took his hand and pressed it to my lips, a playful little bite. "There, all better." Hudson lifted me into his arms, holding me close. "Don't hide from me all the time, okay? I'm scared you'll make it impossible for me to find you." Thinking that, a sharp edge flickered in Hudson's eyes, and he held me tighter. I was afraid I might do something unreasonable. I gently pushed him away. I wasn't upset, just a little flustered. Why do you have to manage even my tiny moods? You're annoying, brother. Let's go do the checkup. Hudson exhaled in relief. The family may have sent me to please an alpha, but Hudson treated me like a treasured little heir. After the checkup, the doctor said, 3 months in, all indicators are normal. Very healthy. No need to worry. The doctor glanced at Hudson, still limited in mobility. He should be careful, and 2 months from now, moderate activity is fine. Hudson nodded and asked about other precautions, noting them down one by one. I didn't want to listen, slowly moved to the other side of the bed, then got up and left. Hudson's voice called, Lincoln, put your shoes on. I slipped on my shoes and sneaked out. Cotton slippers were deliberately placed near the door, convenient for when I needed a quick escape. He never asked about the child. We both understood the unspoken agreement. One day I woke up with a ring on my middle finger. I stared at it for a long time, and when I didn't remove it, Hudson exhaled in relief. Before knowing about the little one, there was no reaction, nothing at all. After knowing, he vomited, I ate, he vomited again, and this repeated. Hudson lost several pounds because of it. The kitchen was constantly making new dishes for me. I even secretly wiped away a few tears. Luckily, Hudson's pheromones continuously soothed me, and even when he went on business trips, he brought me along. After a month or two, I gradually felt better. Hudson had been busy with his own projects, so I didn't interfere. But due to persistent teasing from my childhood friend, and out of boredom, I agreed to meet him. The night I split and almost got marked wasn't his fault, it had been long ago. He treated me well, otherwise, we wouldn't still be playing around now. Because of Hudson, we had another falling out, but he came back to reconcile not long after. After splitting into an Omega, Declan's attitude toward me changed somewhat. Our relationship fluctuated between closeness and distance. I had grown used to it and handled it with calm. As the weather grew colder, I wore a trench coat that hid my stomach. After sitting down, he stared at me for a while, looking a little troubled. It's been months. How have you been? I'm in a good mood today, I said, eyes bright. Pretty good. You? Not bad, just a so-so. He saw me smile and smiled back, then seriously said, Lincoln, I can help you get out of the family. Hudson is just a cripple now. Don't waste your youth following him blindly anymore, okay? I frowned slightly, my tone cooling. Declan, I have my own plans. Declan panicked. What plans? Are you planning to have an illegitimate child for him? You're an Omega, don't be so careless with yourself. Realizing he had spoken harshly, he softened his voice. I'm just concerned about you. You're my good friend. My expression froze completely. So that's what you wanted to say today? 12. Declan's mouth moved, his face turning red, clearly wanting to say more. I cut him off. First, I've lost count of the Omegas you've been with. Your romantic exploits show a lack of self-respect. I've never despised you, which is why I stayed friends with you. Second, I don't need your condescending concern. Third, you aren't even close to Hudson. Today, I'm not eating this meal. I stood to leave, but he blocked me. Declan's face darkened. Yes, I've been reckless. I'm no match for Hudson, but back then I didn't understand my own feelings for you. I didn't dare. I can change, Lincoln. Shut up. I pushed past him and walked out. I didn't want to hear another word from his mouth. Declan's voice turned low. Grandfather is arranging for him to see Omegas for a marriage alliance. One of them was Hudson's first love. My steps faltered. I turned, staring at him coldly. First love? Yes. Declan's eyes gleamed with a strange intensity. The Omega Hudson originally intended to marry. After his accident, they went abroad. Now, for some reason, they're back. Lincoln, what do you think Hudson will choose? I was silent for 2 seconds, then shook my head. I didn't want to say. I wouldn't care what he chose. Back at the villa, Hudson was out on business. I packed a few things and left the family entirely. The sudden move startled the bodyguards who had accompanied me for outings, and everyone in the family. Some tried to stop me, but I just stared quietly and kept walking. They didn't dare block me and instead frantically called Hudson. I turned off my phone. Hudson called, but I didn't answer. I returned to a small apartment I had bought with my savings. My parents didn't know I owned it, and Hudson didn't discover my whereabouts for several hours. When he knocked, I didn't open the door. Late at night, unable to sleep, I went to the door and saw him standing there on the monitor. The moment I opened the door, the alpha looked at me solemnly. No first love, no arranged marriage. Everything my grandfather did has nothing to do with me. I love you, Lincoln. He had tracked down Declan, dealt with him harshly, and sent him home. They didn't dare retaliate and even received punishment themselves, just to show their stance. I looked at him coldly. Considering he had likely been standing outside for 3 or 4 hours, I stepped inside. "Come in and sit." I should have been furious, questioning him, venting anger, but I genuinely had no temper. Even my concern was calm and measured. Whether he noticed or not was his matter. Hudson closed the door, followed me, and grabbed my hand. Now he no longer needed his cane to move. His daily exercise was sufficient, though regaining his previous agility would take time. I tried to pull my hand away, but he held it firmly. I looked up at him. Hudson kissed me. "Baby." When he lifted me horizontally, I didn't struggle, only instinctively protected my stomach. "Your legs." "It's fine." On the bed, Hudson cupped my cheeks. Did he not trust me, or was he upset because of what others had said about me? I nodded honestly. I could be possessive, even his past rumors were intolerable. Why would there be such rumors? Clearly, it's your problem. And yet, why did it reach my ears? Step back. I'm very angry right now. Very angry. Hudson considered my words, then lowered himself slightly. "The Omega your friend called your first love has nothing to do with me. I doubt we've ever even met." He truly had no memory of this person. It wasn't a real scandal, just gossip. I had guessed as much. Hudson didn't argue, his eyes showing possessive intensity. If I had really liked them, wanted the alliance, they wouldn't have been able to go abroad. "Just like I want to keep you, Lincoln. I love you." Hearing him, my gaze blurred. The alpha whispered near my ear, "Be good, baby. Hold your belly." Sometimes I followed his words too easily. Drowsy and disoriented, I heard him say, "Come love me, okay?" I didn't know how much liking someone counted as love. 13. He stayed with me for a while, and once I calmed down, he got his things together and took me home. In the car, Hudson reflected on himself. He felt it was because I hadn't done well enough. During this period, he had been preparing the proposal scene and designing the ring. That's how someone had taken advantage of the opportunity. I hummed in acknowledgement, tilting my head to look out the window. Even if I had misunderstood you, hearing those words at the time still made me angry. A smile flickered in Hudson's eyes. He grabbed my hand and gently bit it twice. "Wife, you're so cute." Hudson had booked a restaurant to have both families meet. He didn't invite many people, just a few close friends on his side. 3 years ago, that car accident had taken someone very close to Hudson, and he had never forgiven himself. That had been the main reason he resisted rehabilitation. He fought relentlessly with other elders and had no contact with them. As for his grandfather, guilty for covering up the instigator of the accident, Hudson's uncle, he felt extreme remorse. But Hudson didn't invite him. The grandfather came only after hearing rumors. Originally, he had intended for high society Omegas to meet his eldest grandson, thinking someone like me, handed over on a platter, wasn't a suitable match. But after being warned by his grandson, he reluctantly attended the dinner. Before this, I hadn't known many of these details. Now that I did, I had even less respect for this meddling grandfather. He endured my cold demeanor, afraid to voice anger, and went home sighing to his driver, "All these years, I've been making mistakes. I thought I had it clear back then, how could it come to this?" In the end, my youngest son still ended up in trouble. I just didn't want to lose 2 sons at once. I was confused. The driver thought, "You still don't see clearly. That's why you publicly arranged Omegas for Hudson, risking the ire of Hudson's current cherished one." But he comforted the grandfather politely, "Children have their own minds, life is long. Perhaps soon you'll be holding great-grandchildren. Take it easy and offer more compensation." Finally, a faint smile appeared on the grandfather's face. Yes, 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 more compensation. The next day, a lawyer arrived, saying he wanted to transfer some company shares to me, 2%. It didn't sound like much, but it was significant. Hudson had me sign the contract, including an extra portion he gave. The proposal went very smoothly. The venue looked dreamlike, beautiful beyond words. I loved it. My parents, though they had always treated me as a useless Omega, had never deprived me materially and truly cared when they did. I always had my own plans. Occasional sadness was trivial. Standing there, with my brother and sister beside them, my parents shed a few tears. Hudson's friends, some with families, attended to the formalities. Hudson knelt on one knee to place the ring on my finger. When he stood, I hugged his waist, burying my head in his chest. "Hudson," I said, the wind lifting his short hair slightly, "you stand so tall." His eyes softened at my words. "Good baby, I love you." 14. I didn't like going to the office or running a studio, so I just invested. With a sharp eye and access to top-tier resources, profits were almost guaranteed. We held our wedding when the child was 6 months old. It was grand and even appeared in the Imperial City Financial Report, a testament to the scale. I was very happy. He did it beautifully. That night, exhausted after the lifelong marking, I rewarded him with a kiss. "I love you." I felt so happy. Hudson, the crazy man, had red eyes, almost teary. I pretended not to notice. He leaned in. Wife, thank you. You appeared in my life without hesitation during my darkest time. I curved my lips, softly said, oh, and then smiled. Hudson's perspective. At a banquet, I had met a boy and remembered him. When we met again, I held the suddenly shifting boy in my arms. Relief flooded me. Thank goodness I was here. Later, I had no interest in love, and I became cold and aloof. Then that boy arrived, dragging a suitcase. I stopped the assistant about to send him away and kept him. Do you want me to leave? The Omega asked. I hid my reaction, but panicked inside, and coldly said, come push me. The Omega smiled slightly, then came and pushed me. The first marking happened during the Omega's heat. I didn't know at the time. Without calm or suppressants, the Omega had secluded himself, slightly forlorn. When I found him, he was hiding in my wardrobe. I gently moved his clothes aside, revealing his beautiful face. He looked at me, eyes wet and glistening. I leaned close, whispering hoarsely, baby, why hide here? He was still somewhat clear-headed and answered honestly, it has your scent, it's comforting. My heart skipped. I cupped his face and kissed him tenderly. Loving Lincoln is a happiness. How much liking counts as love? Hudson didn't know, he only realized suddenly at a certain moment, I love Lincoln.